this pile of broken countertop stone in front of a place that installs these countertops, and another one around the corner in front of a similar business has been driving me crazy for a long time. I drive past them all the time, and it just seems like a shame that something could be done with this stuff. And apparently somebody has been using it, because the pile gets big and it gets small and gets big and it gets small. I've picked up a few pieces of this stuff in the past and looked at it closely, and the gloss finish always kind of scared me off from using it for paving because it would be so slippery. But this time I think I'm going to use it, and I'm going to try to remove the gloss with a tumbler and at the same time kind of round the edges off. So I just need a tumbler. The only change I made to the mixer is, instead of those steel baffles that I think would get bent or broken, I put these chunks of wood. I put one on one side, one on the other side. It's just a little, was a little rectangular piece of wood, and it's just screwed through the outside with a couple of screws, and it's wearing pretty good, but it's easy enough to change. You have to have something, or the rocks will just slide around in circles. The little baffles grab the rocks, pick them up, and make them tumble, and that's the whole point. I had no idea how hypnotizing a bunch of rocks can be, tumbling over and over again. But man, once you get this thing started, it's hard not to sit there and stare at it. Maybe that's just me. Some of these stones have fabric glue to the back, I guess, to keep them from breaking. But it doesn't matter. Just throw them in there. I left your dear heart face in the wall. Now I can undo the things that I did. Maybe it's better after all. 'Cause I've seen you act so happy, and I've seen your heart feel blue. Now that you're back on your feet again, and I know I should stay far away from you. So this is what we're putting into the tumbler. I'm trying to get rid of the glossy face, and I want to round these edges off a little bit. See, they all have real sharp edges. So if I let the stones stick up proud from the grout, they're going to be unpleasant on bare feet, to say the least. So these are just broken with a hammer. Easy peasy. Now these black ones, they're so hard. They don't get much wear, but it does break the corners a little bit. I don't know what kind of stone that is. It might even be man-made. The marbles, they wear real fast. They'll put a piece like this in there, it might not even come out. It may just turn into grit. So this is what I found out so far. If you put less pieces of stone in there, it works quicker, because I think they fall harder on each other. They're not all like cushion each other. Don't have to put the sand. Doesn't seem to make any difference whether there's sand in there or not. It kind of generates its own sand from the edges of the stone coming apart. And then run it about an hour. I put a 5-gallon bucket full of stone, some water, and I turn it for about an hour, and they're coming out pretty good. Let me show you what we have so far. And you can definitely tell which stones are softer, because like the marble, which is pretty soft, it wears really, really round. And this black stuff, it hardly breaks the corners off of it. Got some pretty cool looking stones in here. I like this with the little lines through it. And then this is cool stuff. Here it looks like it's stained, water stained. Got a few pieces of that. But it's a nice assortment. This one's really nice with the pink in it. This is probably about as good as they're going to look because it just rained. So I don't know what it's going to look like in a year from now. They'll probably all fade a little bit, but let's give it a go, see what happens. I'm setting the stones in a bed of the just Easycrete pre-mixed mortar mix. I'm attempting to have the mortar float about halfway up the stone, and then I will come after the fact and grout the joints with the same mixture, just a different operation. It's kind of hard to get it perfectly. I'm not a stonemason, I don't have that much experience, and the stones are different thicknesses. So, you know, I started out laying all the stones out dry ahead of time to get them to fit well, but that didn't really work because when I'd move them out the way to set the mortar, you know, I'd move 5 or 6 or 10 of them at a time. I could never remember exactly how they went back, so now I'm just putting down the mortar and fitting the stones as I go. It's no big deal. The mortar cures really slow on top of this wet concrete subbase, so you have all the time in the world. So this is really kind of fun. Hard on my back, but it's just my problem, not yours. The span between the two slabs is really short, and there's a pretty good elevation difference, so I'm not using a straight edge of any kind. I'm just kind of making it pleasant to the eye, and I believe it won't be a trip hazard because it's going to be under the bench, but it'll drain just fine without a straight edge going on. So the stones are all set. I've scrubbed them with soap and water, but they're still going to need an acid wash. But I'll let them sit for a few days. Let the grout cure up better. And pretty happy with the way they turned out.